Welcome back to Martial Arts in Chinese Literature and Films. In this lecture, we'll introduce the Han Dynasty historian Sima Qian and his biographies of assassins. These biographies left behind enduring cultural images of the assassins, who were men of honor willing to sacrifice their life for a promise. They are the direct inspiration of the film Hero and other modern Chinese films. In the last lecture, we have briefly mentioned the clash between Sima Qian and Emperor Wu of Han. As a result, Sima Qian suffered the inhumane punishment of castration. Now let's get into more details about this famous event in Chinese cultural history. In 99 BCE, Sima Qian offended Emperor Wu of Han since he spoke out in defense of a general named Li Ling. Li Ling lost a battle against the Xiongnu army on the northern border and was captured by the enemy force. Emperor Wu blamed Li Ling for the defeat, and the entire court agreed, except for Sima Qian. Sima Qian was not a friend of Li Ling's. They had very little interaction in the past. However, he believed that Li Ling was an upright man and did not deserve the blame. Thus, at the imperial court, he proposed to the emperor that Li Ling's defeat was owing to inadequate support from the main army force. Emperor Wu interpreted Sima Qian's argument as a criticism of his own military planning and as an attack on another general involved in the battle, who happened to be the brother of Emperor Wu's favorite consort, Lady Li. In a rage, Emperor Wu sentenced Sima Qian to death for daring to speak up against him. During the time, a courtier could redeem himself from death penalty in two ways. One of them was to pay a large sum of money as fines. However, Sima Qian was too poor to come up with these fines. To save himself from execution, he had only one option left. That is, to accept the horrific and humiliating punishment of castration. Throughout traditional China, there had been numerous eunuchs, that is, castrated males called huanguan or taijian in Chinese, serving in the inner palace as servants. They were castrated in order to ensure the purity of the numerous palace women in the emperor's harem. From time to time, these eunuchs could become very powerful since they had the ear of the emperor. However, traditionally they had been looked down upon by courtiers and Confucian scholars. For a courtier and scholar like Sima Qian, castration was the most humiliating punishment possible, not to mention the horrific pains of this punishment. The Chinese term for castration is literally the rotting punishment, 腐刑, since it takes away one's manhood and personhood. Oftentimes, courtiers would rather die than choosing this dehumanizing punishment. Sima Qian nevertheless felt that it was not his time to die. The main reason was that he had started working on Shi Ji, historical records, his future magnum opus. Moreover, this book project was initiated by his father, so Sima Qian felt that it was his filial duty to complete the work. Another important reason was that Sima Qian believed that he did nothing wrong and suffered great injustice. If he died quietly, he would leave no trace whatsoever in this world. If he endured this humiliation and suffering, however, he had a chance to use his writing to set the record straight, not so much in this life, but for future generations. For all these reasons, Sima Qian chose the punishment of castration in order to live on to complete his history work. Furthermore, he movingly depicted his experience and the reasons behind his decision in a letter to a friend. This letter later became one of the most celebrated autobiographical essays in Chinese literary history. In this letter, Sima Qian makes an influential argument that great literature stems from suffering. Hence, his trauma became his motivation to complete this unprecedented historical project. In the letter, Sima Qian also makes a statement that became proverbial in Chinese culture. No one can escape death, but some deaths are as light as swan's down, while others are as heavy as Mount Tai. 人固有一死，死有重于泰山，或轻于鸿毛。With a statement like this, Sima Qian aspired to leave behind an enduring legacy through his history work, for himself and for historical figures who deserve to be remembered. Guided by this creative vision, Sima Qian invented a new form of historical writing, that is, the biographical form. Previously, books of history were organized chronologically or by regions. In contrast, the biographical form foregrounds the lives and deeds of individuals as the central themes of history. Later on, it became the dominant form of historical writings in traditional China. Sima Qian also included in his biographies many unconventional historical figures. Previous historical writings typically focus on the kings and noblemen. Sima Qian, however, shifted his attention to the commoner class. Moreover, whereas we often think that history is written by and for the winners, Sima Qian wrote his most moving pieces about those who were defeated or failed, but had a boldness, courage, or vision that set them apart from the crowd. One set of biographies that may best represent Sima Qian's unique vision of history is the biographies of assassins, 刺客列传. In these biographies, Sima Qian portrays 5 famous assassins across the Spring, Autumn, and Warring States periods up to the Qing unification. In fact, the last assassin included in these biographies, one who he portrays with the most details, is none other than Jun Ke, who was known for his failed assassination attempt on Yun Zheng, the future first emperor of Qin. Before we look at Jun Ke's story, I'd like to first offer a synopsis of the story of Yu Rang, which may illustrate the basic spirit of the biographies of assassins. That is, a man of honor dies for those who understand him. 士为知己者死. Living during the final years of the Warring States period, Yu Rang served as a retainer for a nobleman named Zhi Bo in the state of Jin. Retainers during the period were somewhat similar to samurais in the Japanese tradition. A retainer lived on the patronage of a nobleman and pledged to serve the lord when the need arises. These retainers were typically noted for their resourcefulness and courage, and were typically from the commoner class. A nobleman could have many retainers at his service, and he might treat them quite differently. Before serving Zhi Bo, Yu Rang already served 2 other noblemen, yet neither of them thought highly of him. Later, both of these noblemen and their clans were destroyed by another powerful noble lord, who was Zhi Bo. Yu Rang subsequently became a retainer of Zhi Bo's. In contrast to his previous 2 masters, Zhi Bo believed that Yu Rang was a man of courage and integrity, and showed him great respect and appreciation. For this reason, Yu Rang was especially loyal to Zhi Bo. Later, Zhi Bo and his entire clan were killed in a major political event that marks the beginning of the Warring States period, the fall of the state of Jin, due to the military coup led by 3 noble clans, Han, Wei, and Zhao, which subsequently established their own kingdoms. Yu Rang, the retainer, survived this event and vowed to avenge the death of his former lord Zhi Bo. Especially, he planned to assassinate the nobleman Lord Xiangzi of Zhao, who was the mastermind behind Zhibo's death. According to Sima Qian's biography, Yu Rang thus stated the reason of his determination. A man of honor dies for those who understand him, just as a woman makes herself beautiful for one who loves her. Zhibo understood me. Before I die, I'll repay him by destroying his enemy. Then my spirit will feel no shame in the world below. In this famous statement from the biography of Yu Rang, we see an intense principle of moral reciprocity. It should be noted that Yu Rang did not act out of blind loyalty simply because Zhibo was his superior. He had served other lords before and wouldn't do the same for them, since they didn't appreciate him as a person or as a man of honor. Zhibo was nevertheless different, since he treated Yu Rang with appreciation and respect. In this light, despite their hierarchical relations, their relationship resembled that of friendship, which is the only equal relationship in the 5 cardinal relations in Confucianism. The term "one who understands me," 知己, became a term for bosom friends in the Chinese language and is still used in this sense today. The idea of 知己 is characterized by a strong sense of mutual understanding and respect, and an intense personal loyalty to one another. Having its origin in Yu Rang's and other assassins' biographies, the reciprocal bond between bosom friends, or 知己, became one of the most salient moral codes in martial arts stories and in modern martial arts films. In Yu Rang's biography, Sima Qian portrays in vivid details the extreme measures he took to revenge Zhibo's death. At first, he changed his name, became a convict laborer, and managed to work as a janitor in the palace of Xiangzi, his assassination target. Yet Xiangzi detected his presence, and Yu Rang was captured by Xiangzi's attendants. However, Xiangzi respected Yu Rang's determination and dedication to his former master. As he commented, Zhibo and his heirs were all wiped out. If one of his retainers feels compelled to try to avenge his death, he must be a worthy man, such as the world seldom sees. Yu Rang, however, didn't give up his mission. Rather, he took the radical step of mutilating himself for the purpose of hiding his true identity and finding another chance at assassinating Xiangzi. According to the biography, he painted his body with lacquer to induce sores like those of a leper, destroyed his voice by swallowing coal, completely changed his appearance until no one could recognize him. In this state, he ambushed Xiangzi when Xiangzi was out on an excursion. Yet, as if determined by fate, Xiangzi's horse got startled, and Xiangzi detected Yu Rang's presence before he could carry out the attack. Facing Yu Rang again in his mutilated form, Xiangzi questioned him why he was so obsessed with revenging Zhibo's death, but never entertained the same thought for his previous 2 masters, who perished at the hands of Zhibo. Yu Rang thus replied, "I served both the Fan and the Zhongxing families, and both of them treated me as an ordinary man. Therefore, I repay them as an ordinary man would. But when I served Zhibo, he treated me as one of the finest men of the land, and so I have determined to repay him in the same spirit." Xiangzi was filled with admiration for Yu Rang's loyalty, yet felt that he couldn't pardon him anymore. Knowing that he was bound to die without fulfilling the revenge, Yu Rang made the following request: "For today's business, I have no doubt that I deserve to be executed. but I beg you to give me a robe, so that I may at least strike at it and fulfill my determination for revenge. Then I may die without regret." Due to his admiration for Yu Zhang's spirit, Xiangzi granted his wish. Yu Zhang's biography ends with the following scene. Yu Zhang drew his sword, leapt 3 times into the air, and slashed at the rope, crying, "Now I can go to the world below and report to Zhibo." Then he committed suicide with the sword. That day, when men of true determination in the state of Zhao heard what he had done, they all wept for him. Yu Zhang's devotion to his master may look excessive to modern readers, yet through his radical actions, he manifests a tragic heroism we repeatedly see in martial arts stories. This tragic heroism is about the determination to carry through with one's goals and being single-mindedly devoted to a person or a group despite doomed failures or self-sacrifice. Yu Zhang's story may remind us of the Confucian principle of integrity or yi, even though the moral code he embodies is more radical and controversial than what we may find in classic Confucian writings. Yu Zhang's story also exemplifies the extraordinary bond of reciprocity. In Chinese, any reciprocal relation can be expressed in terms of bao, repayment. Revenge is 报仇, to repay a grudge, whereas gratitude is 报恩, to repay acts of kindness. We'll see that the motif of bao or reciprocity is quite common in martial arts stories. What's interesting about this motif is that it's not determined by pre-given family or social relations, but by the specific nature of individual acts and relations. As we see in the Yu Zhang story, the bond with the zhiji, one who understands you, is the most intense of this reciprocal relation between individuals, to the extent that a man of honor would sacrifice his life for it. Sima Qian's biographies contain other stories of the kind. You can explore these stories in the optional readings included for this week. The 4th story in these biographies, The Biography of Nie Zhen, is another famous piece from the set. Here, after the biography of Yu Zhang, let's turn to the last piece in the set, the biography of Jin Ke. This is the longest and best-known piece of the biographies of assassins. The events recorded in this biography continue to captivate the imagination of Chinese readers today, since the target of Jin Ke's assassination attempt was none other than the future first emperor of Qin, a historical figure who had a fundamental impact on shaping the course of Chinese history. Jin Ke was an assassin sent by the kingdom of Yan while the kingdom of Qin had wiped out several other kingdoms and was about to attack Yan. Initially, Jin Ke was a traveling swordsman and often spent his days drinking on the streets. However, those who became close friends with him were aware of his extraordinary talent and courage. One of his friends, an aged swordsman named Tian Guang, was approached by the Prince of Yan about how to deal with the kingdom of Qin. Tian Guang recommended Jin Ke for assassinating the king of Qin, since he himself was too old to carry out the task. Tian Guang then found Jin Ke and entrusted him with the mission. In order to express his own dedication to the cause, Tian Guang killed himself in front of Jin Ke, thus becoming the first martyr of the secret mission. Tian Guang's death bounded Jin Ke to the mission. In order to gain the trust of the king of Qin, Jin Ke needed some very special gifts. Prince of Yan provided him with a map of the Yan territory they promised to surrender to Qin. Yet that was not enough. During the time, a general named Fan Yuqi had defected from Qin and escaped to the kingdom of Yan. The king of Qin killed the entire clan of this defected general and put a high price on his head. For Jin Ke to approach the king of Qin to carry out the assassination, General Fan Yuqi's head would be his best bait. Learning about the plan, Fan Yuqi willingly sacrificed his life due to his intense hatred for the king of Qin. He thus became the second martyr for this assassination mission. With the map and Fan Yuqi's head as his gifts, Jin Ke assumed the role of a Yan ambassador and embarked on a journey of no return. He was accompanied by an assistant named Qin Wuyang, who was known as a fearless warrior. A sharp dagger soaked with deadly poison was hidden in the scroll of the map Jin Ke would present to the king of Qin. The plan was to launch the fatal hit when the map became fully unrolled. This memorable detail, recorded in the biography of Jin Ke, became the source of the Chinese idiom Tu Qun Bi Xian. When the map reached its end, the dagger appeared, which means that the real intention is revealed in the end. The kingdom of Yan is in northern China in today's Beijing and Hebei area. It was winter time when Jin Ke's envoy set foot on their journey of no return. Everyone seeing them off, including the Prince of Yan, was wearing mourning clothes in white. When they reached the river of Yi that marked the border of the kingdom of Yan, a musician named Gao Jianli, who was a close friend of Jin Ke's, played the zither, and Jin Ke sang the following lines to the music. The wind withers and the river of Yi is chilly. These brave men, once gone, shall never come back. 风萧萧兮易水寒，壮士一去兮不复还. The pathos of the moment moved everyone at the scene. After Jin Ke and Qin Wuyang reached the Qin court, the king of Qin agreed to receive them since he was pleased by the gifts they were presenting. When they stepped into the palace and saw the king of Qin in front of them, Jin Ke's assistant Qin Wuyang, despite his boldness, began to tremble with fear. Jin Ke laughed it off, stating that Qin Wuyang was a simple rustic who was shaken by the king's awe-inspiring appearance. The king remained unsuspicious and ordered Jin Ke to present the map. Then, as the famous scene goes, the map was unrolled and the dagger appeared. At that moment, Jin Ke seized the king's sleeve with his left hand, while with his right he snatched up the dagger and held it pointed at the king's breast. But he did not stab him. The king jerked back in alarm and leapt from his seat, tearing the sleeve off his robe. He tried to draw his sword, but it was too long and clung to the scabbard, and since it vertically at his side, he could not, in his haste, manage to get it out. Jin Ke ran after the king, who dashed around the pillar of the throne room. All the courtiers, utterly dumbfounded by so unexpected an occurrence, milled about in disorder. The law of Qin forbade courtiers from carrying weapons before the throne, and the guards must have the king's order to enter the throne room. Chased by Jin Ke, the king was nevertheless too panicked to give such an order. Finally, a physician in attendance, whose name was Xia Wuqie, threw the medicine bag he was carrying at Jin Ke, and the king finally got the chance to draw his sword out. He struck at Jin Ke and injured his left thigh. The story then goes as follows. Jin Ke, staggering to the ground, raised the dagger and hurled it at King, but it missed and struck the bronze pillar. The king attacked Jin Ke again. Jin Ke, wounded now in 8 places, realized that his attempt had failed. Leaning against the pillar, his legs sprawled before him, he began to laugh and cursed the king. I failed because I tried to threaten you without actually killing you, and exact a promise that I could take back to the crown prince. As he spoke, the king's attendants rushed forward to finish him off. It was a long time before the king regained his composure. Following Jin Ke's failure and death, Sima Qian's biography continues to report of various repercussions following the assassination. The king of Yan executed the crown prince, the mastermind behind the assassination plan. Yet it was not enough to appease the king of Qin or stop his conquests. After 5 years, the Qin army conquered the kingdom of Yan. In the following year, Qin took over the last standing kingdom Qi and unified China. Jin Ke's biography ends with a memorable scene about Jin Ke's past friend, the musician Gao Jianli. If you still remember, he was the zither player seeing Jin Ke off by the river of Yi. Gao Jianli was a well-known musician of the time, and even the king of Qin appreciated his skills. Aware of Gao's past association with Jin Ke and the assassination plan, the king of Qin, who had become the first emperor, ordered his attendants to pull out Gao Jianli's eyes and then employed him as a court musician. As time passed by, the first emperor lowered his guard about this musician and allowed him to come nearer and nearer. Gao Jianli, however, had been hiding a heavy piece of lead in his instrument. One day, when he got the opportunity to play at the emperor's side, he threw the instrument at him, but missed. Gao Jianli was then summarily executed. Not being a warrior himself, likely he knew that his assassination was going to be futile, yet he was propelled to carry it out anyway to revenge the kingdom of Yan and his old friend Jin Ke. You can read the full biography of Jin Ke in the optional reading. Based on this introduction, you may see how this ancient event is described with vivid details, as if it takes place in front of our eyes. Jin Ke's assassination took place about a century before Sima Qian's time. At the end of the biography, Sima Qian reports that he learned all these details from those who once conversed with the physician Xia Wuqi, that is, the physician who threw the medicine bag and saved the first emperor during the event. Likely, based on these interviews, he applied his fictional imagination to render Jin Ke's image into that of a tragic hero. Given Sima Qian's own experience with imperial tyranny, he probably wrote a vision of revenge into his biographies about the assassins, especially in Jin Ke's story. At the end of this set of biographies, Sima Qian thus comments on the assassins he has immortalized through writing. Some of them succeeded in carrying out their mission, and some did not, but it is perfectly clear that they had all determined upon the deed. There were no faults to their intentions. Is it not right, then, that their names should be handed down to later ages? By this statement, Sima Qian bestowed upon historical writing a different function. Instead of always celebrating the winners and those in power, historical writing could be used to commemorate those who failed in reality, but nevertheless deserve to be remembered due to their upright character, their truthful intentions, or their extraordinary courage. This vision also bestowed upon the act of writing and the role of a writer an extraordinary power. Instead of following the order of kings or emperors, a single individual could use his writing brush to offer an independent judgment of the events, past or present. The independent spirit Sima Qian embodied came to be prized by Chinese scholars throughout the transitional period and continued to be prevalent among Chinese intellectuals during the modern period. Regarding the assassins, Sima Qian characterized their most important qualities in terms of the Confucian principle of yi, or integrity. The images of these assassins push the self-sacrificial principle of integrity to an extreme. In general, their dedication also has an intensely personal nature. As represented by the motto, "A man of honor dies for those who appreciate him. 是为知己者死." This intense bond may remind us of the imperative of filial piety in Confucianism, although it allows more room for individual choice. Granted, the extreme moral codes embodied by the assassins do not always align with larger moral principles. Yet their stories fascinated generations of Chinese readers because of these complexities. The biography of assassins became a celebrated historical and literary piece in Chinese cultural history. Its stories are adapted into many traditional plays, such as Peking opera. With each adaptation, these stories gain new meanings that speak to the concerns or visions of the new age when they were retold. Due to the importance of the assassination target and the memorable literary details in the biography, Jin Ke's story naturally became the best known of the set. Interestingly, in the 1990s, several well-known filmmakers in mainland China took on this traditional story. In particular, two films about the subject caused broad attention. The Emperor's Shadow, Qin Song, directed by Zhou Xiaowen, and The Emperor and the Assassin Jin Ke Zi Qin Wang, directed by Chen Kaige, is also the director of the famous film Farewell My Concubine, 霸王别姬. Both of these films contain many fictional plots and some complicated romances between the characters. Yet they both follow a more traditional vision about the first emperor, portraying him as a power-hungry tyrant and as being eventually consumed by his own hunger for power. The Emperor and the Assassin directly focuses on the story of Jin Ke, whereas The Emperor's Shadow elaborates on the image of the musician Gao Jianli in Jin Ke's biography, the musician who carried out a futile assassination attempt when he was playing for the first emperor. Zhang Yimou is one of China's most famous filmmakers. His 2002 film Hero was inspired by the return of the assassination story in Chinese cinema at the turn of the century, as well as the phenomenal success of An Li's 2000 martial arts film Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which we'll watch next week. In his adaptation of this traditional motif, Zhang Yimou adopts a completely fictional set of characters surrounding the protagonist, nameless Wu Ming, the main assassin, with a group of swordsmen and swordswomen involved in the plan. The most important of these other assassins are Broken Sword, Can Jian, and Flying Snow, Fei Xue, who are lovers. Now, in order not to spoil anything, I'll invite you to view the film first. In this film, you'll notice many themes we have discussed so far. The Wen-Wu relationship, the mixed presence of intellectual traditions including Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism, and of course, the history of the Qin unification. Please further note how the image of the assassins in the film resemble or differ from those in Sima Qian's stories. After watching the film, please continue to view another short lecture video in which I call your attention to some important scenes and themes in the film before you proceed to finish the weekly assignments.